Hey team, welcome back to Ross Spec. Today the battle between the Dark Horse and the Mach 1 continues. I'm going to be testing mass, mods and muscle. Well, muscle is actually horsepower, but it doesn't start with M. Anyway, come on, let's get into it. If you're new to the series, I'm performing a set of semi-scientific tests to determine which car, my 2024 Dark Horse or my 2021 Mach 1, gets to keep its spot in the garage. Last time I tested the traffic light battle, or 0 to 60 km an hour, the result from that one was so close that I called it a draw. And then I tested the exhaust note. While my measurement device failed on me, the Dark Horse, noting that both the cars have factory delivered exhaust systems, sounded better. So the tally is 1 up to the Dark Horse at the moment. There's been a lot of shade thrown at the Dark Horse for being too heavy, so my next test is to quantify how much weight difference there is in real world conditions. I was going to head to a public weighbridge, but they wanted to charge me $50 a car. Then I have a mate with corner scales, but he went on a holiday to Japan, so I had to come up with an alternate plan. My local dump lets you dispose of recycling for free. There's an opportunity here to not only do my test, but get rid of some rubbish. The test. I threw a couple of cardboard boxes in the boot and then headed to the servo. I filled the tank with BP's finest ultimate petrol. Then I drove to the dump and ran over the first weighbridge and noted the weight. Got rid of my cardboard boxes, jumped back in and headed for the second weighbridge. I double checked the weight and headed home. From there I threw some more boxes in the other car and did it all over again. There are some limitations in doing it this way. The dump weighbridge only goes to 2 decimal places, and then on top of that it's rounded to the nearest 20 kilos. But for the purpose of this test, aka determining a winner, it'll work. The Mach 1 rolled through both weighbridges with me on board at 1.88 tonne. Mate, she's a heavy girl, but in her defence, she was also be bumped up by a bit of the subframe braces that I've got in there. The Dark Horse, when she had her turn, it rolled through at 1.94 tonne, 60 kilos heavier than the Mach 1. She has no excuses. She's completely stock. That's like carrying a small passenger around all the time. I guess some of that shade is warranted. The Mach 1 is the clear winner here, so that brings the score level, 1-1. While the Mach 1 is basically stock, she does have some suspension modifications and the handling package splitter and spoiler. When we get to doing the track test, I didn't feel it was fair that she had some extra tools in her arsenal, so I've treated the Dark Horse to some upgrades. What I have for her is a set of Steeda dual rate springs. These will lower the car about 20mm all round and improve the handling while chucking it through the corners. To top the front struts off, I have a set of Ford Performance camber plates, the same that are fitted to the handling package cars. And I also have the G-Track ultralight front subframe brace for some extra stiffening. For rear stiffening, I have the Steeda subframe braces, and while it's all apart, I also have the Steeda subframe bushing support system and alignment kit to go in. Once installed, it'll make the suspension modifications between the cars like for like. Also, not to muck around, I have the Dark Horse handling package splitter and spoiler in some boxes to go on too. But my plan is to put these on after suspension work has been done to make it easier for the shop doing the wheel alignment. But I got a few surprises when I opened the boxes. The spoiler is the Ford Performance variant, and so I could have it quicker, I self-imported it from the US. The description said primed and ready to paint, but when I had a look at it, it already had the end caps painted the dark argent colour, so that was a win. But when I opened the splitter box, I thought I'd stuffed up something, because there was only one piece. But then I looked at the shape, and straight away it was familiar. I had been sent another Mach 1 splitter. Funny thing about it is someone in the factory must have been having a really bad day, because the box, the label on the splitter, and the hardware were all for the S650, part numbers and all. Just all wrapped around the wrong splitter. Bummer. I'm going to have to leave these off for now until I can get a replacement splitter sorted out. For the suspension bits, there are quite a few other videos showing you how to install these bits. And I don't have a hoist yet, and rolling around on the floor while working on a brand new car just doesn't sound appealing to me. So I sent it all off to Real Dyno so they could put it all in for me. Advantage of sending it there is they have a dyno room out the back, so we can spin it up at the same time to see what horsepower she makes. What I love about their dyno is that it's a hub dyno. There's no fuzziness about how it's tied down, and there's no cheating. It makes what it makes and you don't get upset. To ensure the conditions were almost identical, I arrived with the Mach 1 after they'd finished the suspension on the Dark Horse. That way we could literally get the Dark Horse off the dyno, throw the Mach 1 straight on and run it next. No time like the present. Time for the first pull. 432 horsepower at the hubs. Not too bad at all. Time for a second pull. .435 horsepower, even better, and 367.6 foot-pound of torque. Now it's time for the Mach 1 to have a go. I thought 435 horsepower for a stock Dark Horse was pretty healthy. That wasn't until the Mach 1 pumped out 445 horsepower. But it wasn't done there. .452 horsepower at the hubs. Unbelievable! But it did put out slightly less torque at 366 foot-pounds. Overlaying the graphs, you can see the Dark Horse makes more power almost everywhere, up to about 6,200 RPM. And then the Mach 1 just keeps pulling and overtakes the Dark Horse at the top of the rev range. There could be a number of things going on here. In Australia, we get less power by default than the US. The export tune on the Dark Horse could be more restrictive while still meeting its quoted value. The Dark Horse also only had 1,300 kilometers on it when it ran on the dyno, so it hadn't got to that magic 1,600 kilometers or 1,000 mile run-in distance. Lee at Real Dyno, whose bread and butter is Barrow turbo mods and tuning, did say to me that they could get a low K turbo in that would struggle to make power, and then you get one in with 170,000 kilometers with the same mods and it would put out so much power that the mods couldn't support it reliably. And the car could still be protecting itself because while all the runs were to the limiter, the Dark Horse would cut out at about 7,000 revs, 500 short of its red line. But I thought of something afterwards. We tested both the cars in the same way. But one of these conditions probably helped the Mach 1 pump out more power. Both were done with the bonnet open. The Mach 1 has an open airbox, where the Dark Horse twin airboxes are sealed. This would have definitely helped the Mach 1 be the dyno queen. If I had thought about it at the time, I could have taken the lids off the Dark Horse to see if it made any difference, but that isn't really the point of my tests. I want them all to be run as you brung. If you pulled up next to one in the other, you wouldn't have time to make any changes. If you're going to get into each other, the time would be right then. So I guess that's another win for the Mach 1. It's gone from being behind to being in front, 2-1. Real question is, can it stay there? Next time we're going to be taking them down the drag strip, so don't forget to like and subscribe if you want to check that out. And until next time, remember, there's more to going fast than going fast. Catch you later.